What's up, guys? Welcome to our podcast, Bridges of Belief. This is our absolutely new podcast. We have no idea what we're doing, but we're just going to give it a go because we really feel a calling to do this. So just to introduce myself, my name is Kevin Paulraj. I'm a life coach. I'm based in Western Sydney, and I love personal development, Christianity, gym, and my family. I've got my wife, Lisa, and I've got my two kids, and I'll pass it over to Poya.
Hey guys, I'm Poya. I'm your classic 9 to 5, and yeah, I love Jesus, personal development, fitness, salsa dancing, and art.
Awesome. Awesome. So right, guys, we just want to read out a mission statement in regards to why we actually started this and what we kind of, I guess, propose to do with this podcast. So this is for anyone who is keen on personal development, whether you are a Christian or not. It's almost going to be like personal development from the lens of two Christians, which we obviously don't see too much in the world. And the problem that we see is often it's very difficult to balance modern perspectives about personal development and modern wisdom, also with spiritual beliefs. Often it's a challenge. So what we aim to do is kind of tackle those topics, blending Christianity with wisdom, with real world advice, and making sure that it's rooted in Jesus. And I'll get a point to read out the mission statement.
Yeah, so our mission statement is we're really just trying to merge faith's lessons with personal growth and offer a safe space for everyone, including non-Christians.
Yeah, sweet. And today's topic is self-help and Christianity. So right now we're just going to be doing a deep dive into this topic and hopefully end up with some practical points that can help us, I guess, live out our calling. So I think the first topic that I want to start off is our individual backgrounds and how we kind of choose to come to this topic. And I'll just start off by saying that I am not, I would say when people meet me and they know that I'm Christian, they will know that maybe the way that I view things or see things are very, very different. Okay, and here's what I mean. A lot of Christians I see come from a only Christian perspectives, not allowing any other worldly wisdom at all. Whereas for me, I feel like God has brought me through the channel of personal development and seeing through everything through personal development. And then later on, I started seeing how Christian topics are so into personal development as well. So the way that I'm going to be exploring everything is almost like through the lens of personal development and seeing how Christianity and personal development actually relate. And Poya is actually slightly different. And also, by the way, that's my background as well. Because I am a coach, even in my business, I do everything personal development based. And then I also bring in subtle Christian topics and Christian ideas to really help some of my clients as well, right? So I come from a very, very different, I would say, background and the way that I want to approach this to what Poya would, but I'll let Poya explain that for himself.
Yeah, look, for me, I'm a Christian, and it's actually through Kevin I got into self-development. So for me, the way I've always approached self-development, I'm like, all right, cool, I'm open, like, let's see what, like, Tony Robbins has to say. I look at it and I'll kind of pick what I think works for me. And a lot of it I've noticed, a lot of self-help is just a reappropriation of Jesus' teachings for the masses. And I think what I find really fascinating about personal development is I think it's just a practical way to live out what Jesus commanded us to do and or taught us to do.
Yeah.
So I kind of approach a lot of self-development topics through the lens of like, does this line up with kind of like what Jesus has taught us? And if not, what's the value? Is there still value, or why is there not value, or why? Yeah, and things like that. I'm very open to all different types of perspectives. I actually love going to different sort of faith gatherings. Like I've been to like Baha'i temples. I've gone to a Sikh temple service with a friend. So for me as well, I'm quite a curious person. I like learning about different topics. So I'm always open to being challenged. I'm always open to learn. But yeah, my main rooting is I'm pretty into Jesus thing. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's kind of how I view a lot of topics, particularly with
Yeah.
self-development.
And I think part of we specifically, and I would say pretty intentionally, Poya wanted to do it that way because we just see that often, like when Christians do talk about certain things, it seems very, very non-inclusive. And it's almost like then because they are so careful about making sure that they do things the right way, they often are very, very, you could say, keep at the distance new perspectives. And I think for non-Christians, that's not really welcoming at all, right? Whereas you see someone like, let's just say you look at someone like Jordan Peterson. I've seen personally on his Bible series, by the way, I don't think he's a Christian, right? He's kind of yes or no. We don't really know if he's 100% Christian. But what I would say is there are so many people who are commenting on his videos saying, I was an atheist, but now listening to you, I'm starting to really respect Christianity. And a lot of people have come to Christianity because of him. But the funny thing was, he has no attachment to need to believe that Christianity needs to be true. He's just openly and objectively exploring the truth, whether it leads to Christian through truth or not. And the really cool thing is it usually ends up in Christian truth anyway. But because he's open and he's not attached to it needs to be like this and this is wrong, he's been so inclusive and he's really gotten the modern world, I would say, interested in Christianity and seeing it so much more than just a Santa Claus story, right? So that's kind of the perspective that we want to take, which is be very, very open and non-judgmental towards views, and then kind of discuss it and battle test it to see how it actually fits in a Christian perspective. Does that kind of make sense to you, Poya? Any points to add on that?
That's perfect.
Awesome.
Nothing to add.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So our first topic is the difference between Christian self-help and normal self-help. I'll leave this to you.
All right, let's go, baby. So I think it's so interesting. So I think self-help, firstly, is like such a trigger word for a lot of Christians. I hear so many. I've like read articles by pastors who are like critiquing self-help.
Even the word self triggers Christians.
It's a word self that triggers because it's like it's all you.
It's all self. Oh my God.
Yeah,
where does God come in?
Exactly right. And look, I get that. That's fair. That's cool. But really, what is meant by self-help, it's just taking personal responsibility for your life. And that's it. It's taking personal responsibility and leading the rest to fate, or for Christians, to God. And so I think there's a lack of nuance in the approach that a lot of Christians have to self-help. And the reason I'm saying this is I don't really know if I even believe there is Christian self-help material. I mean, there's a little bit. I think John Mark Comer is probably the closest thing I've seen to it. I think he has some really great resources on his website for Christian self-development. There's like this really there's one on like generational sin and generational curses where it's like a worksheet you can fill out. We can map out like things your family has struggled with, like addictions and stuff, to see what you could potentially struggle with. It's sick. It's cool. Check it out. John Mark Comer, cannot highly recommend him enough. But yeah, I think the difference between Christian self-help, one of the biggest, if there is even a category for that, would be like there's a very clear like definition of who is on our side. When it's just general self-help, it's the universe, it's the energy, or whatever you want to call it, right? It's Tony Robbins. I don't know. Christian self-help. Yeah.
I was gonna say, okay, so I was thinking about this, right?
Yeah.
And the first definition that came to my mind, and I'll let you critique this, right? The first definition that came to my mind is everything is about me, right? Because self-help on its own is just everything is about me. Like if I want to achieve goals, if I want to master my emotions, if I want to get better at relationships, the sole reason why is to improve the quality of my own life, right? Now, improving the quality of everyone else's life in self-help could also be a means to the end of helping me become happier. Because we all know, whether you're Christian or not Christian, helping others be happier makes me happier. But in summary, what I was to say is like, I think normal self-help is just mainly about me, and Christian self-help is about doing it from a place of really wanting to serve God. That was my first definition. But when I was really thinking of it, I think as human beings, if I was to say in my mind, as a Christian who's into personal development, that 24/7 on my mind, my every motive that I have is really to serve God, I'd be lying. And I can't say that. So here's the new definition I propose. And Poya, you tell me what you think, right? It's almost like the next one is it's self-help, which is all about me. But the perception that I want to take is, number one, it's about God. And then second, it is also about me. And then these two also intertwine. So I think that is a more accurate thing. And I can stand behind that and say, yeah, I aim to put God in my life. And I also do things for me, because obviously we're humans and we're selfish beings. But we always try to make sure that those two come together. But we make sure that everything falls under. We try our best to make sure everything falls under the number one priority of God. So that's
Mm.
kind of how I see it. So first option is just me against, am I doing it for myself or am I doing it for God? But I think how I think is more accurate is, am I doing it for me or am I doing it for number one, God, and then second for me?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I would say, yeah, it is that. I would even say it's what's your why, because your why is seriously is like the most important thing. So if you're, normal self-help, your why could be a variety of things. It could be, I want to be the very best like no one ever was. Or it could be to be a better husband. It could be to get out of poverty or whatever. With Christian self-help, I think your why is a lot more limited. It's really, you want to be more like Jesus, and through that
Mm,
serve God. And so yeah, God is first, and you're doing stuff for yourself, but you're doing stuff for yourself because you're like, this will make me more like Jesus. I want
mm.
to have a clearer head because that will enable me to love people better because it's more like Jesus. It will enable me to be more patient, which is more like Jesus. I want to overcome my fear because that'll make me more
The
courageous,
the the
just like
only
Jesus.
and even
Yeah.
though like that, I would say that makes a lot of sense, right? But when I think of it from a very experiential perspective, and by the way, that's how I guess we'll be approaching it. A lot of my knowledge is not from academics, right? I failed a lot in school. I was a failure all the way to school, and I couldn't even really get into uni. But a lot of my knowledge has come from spending $200,000 in personal development, going on different experiences, coaches, retreats, all that kind of stuff, and coming to my own knowledge. And coming back to it, I think my experience is, if I was to take that perspective, then many times I think to myself, yeah, I am actually doing this for God, and I am. But many times throughout the day, I'm just kind of doing things for myself. And I feel like if I was just to take the perspective of every single thing I am doing is for God, I don't think I will feel I
Oh
don't think I
yeah.
will feel congruent, right?
It's
Now I know
more
I'm
that,
actually saying something that's very, very
yeah,
congruent. But
yeah.
yeah, I just feel like I wouldn't be congruent because I feel like I'd be lying to myself, telling myself that I'm doing everything for God when also I am doing things for me. So how do I kind of marry that up?
I think it's like you're never going to be consistent, right, in your why.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You're never going to be consistent. You're never going to be like, I'm totally doing this for God. I'm totally doing this for, yeah. You're never going to be like, I'm totally doing this for God. It's always going to chop and change. We're sinners, right? Like we're all sinful, and so our motives can. So like what
Does
I'm
that
trying to
mean
say is,
does that mean that what you're saying is that we have to strive to make sure that it's God number one, but then if we fall short, it's okay because we're humans. Is that what you
that's it,
mean?
man. That's it. It's just like it's more about the consistency. It's what is your consistent why? Because I do think even if you're not a Christian, you're doing self help, your why is going to change. It could be 1 minute it's like, oh, I want to be a better person. Then the other minute it's like, I want to make heaps of money. But what is your most consistent why, and how consistent are you in that? I think that's really where it is. I think that's the key. Like, so if you're a
Oh,
Christian,
okay, okay, okay,
yeah, yeah,
okay. And then here's the other thing that was coming to my mind is that, okay, so I think that is good, which is kind of going, okay, the why behind everything, you try with all your intention, all your might, all your soul to make sure that it is for God. You know, like
yes.
God says in his commandment, love the Lord with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. But knowing that as a human being, you're not always going to be able to be consistent with that, but doing the best to be consistent with that. However, I think the other thing that I want to add in, and I think that's a great framework, which is do everything for God, but know you're not going to be consistent, but try your best anyway. But I think the other thing also to remember is sometimes in life you're going to be doing things and you're not going to be consciously having that intention of doing it for God, but sometimes you'll just be doing it. But I think it's okay to enjoy it. I think it's definitely okay to enjoy aspects where you're not really consciously or intentionally thinking about God. I know this is kind of a poo topic, but I think it's okay. Like to give you an example,
Yeah.
there's moments where maybe I'm doing a coaching session and I have an opportunity, and maybe that client wants me to share about my Christian faith, and I share about my Christian faith, and I feel like, yeah, I'm doing this for God. But then some coaching sessions, I'm really just doing it because I really want to enjoy it. But that doesn't mean it's wrong to enjoy it.
Oh,
It just
no.
means, you know what I'm kind of like, that kind of wrestle that I'm talking about, Poya?
Is it like, is there times where is it like, I'm scared to say this because I think, are you saying essentially, no, actually, no, this is, I think I understand it. Are you saying essentially there are times where you're not thinking, oh, this is like, is this going to like be honoring to like, oh, how does this serve God? How is this serving God? Rather, it's just like, I enjoy it. Like,
You know why? Why I want to
yeah,
bring this topic up,
yeah,
right? First of all, it's just because I think in a lot of other spheres, sermons, whatever, we kind of hear this way that it's supposed to be. But I'm so sick of things not being realistic, right? And why I say that is because if we were to say, hey, look, ideally, the Christian walk needs to be that every single thing that we're doing for God and we're intentionally focused on God. Like, if we say that that's what it's supposed to be, can imagine how many Christians would actually beat themselves up, because the reality is it is just not like that. It is not like that.
yeah,
So
definitely.
I like to take a more very realistic approach of ideally pretty much what you said, which is perfect. Ideally, everything should be consciously for God. And as a human, you got to know that you're not going to be always thinking about God. And that's okay as long as you're trying your best, right? That being said, if you do enjoy different aspects of life and you're not consciously thinking about God, I don't think it's always a sin. I guess that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. And I
I
think it's important to highlight that, because people who are listening will be like, okay, yeah, that fits in with my life. And I can
yeah.
live that and be like, that makes sense.
I'm hesitant. I don't even know if it's a sin or not. I can't comment on that. So I have no answer for
I
that.
think, so my
But
perspective is,
yeah,
I think it can turn into a sin.
yeah, I think so. I think that can happen. I wonder if it's also a habit of just like having a constant mindset of gratitude. So for example, I love salsa dancing, right? So if I have like an awesome dance with someone, I'm probably not thinking about God. I'm just like, all right, cool. I'm having fun. I'm doing some cool spins with them. But I think what might be helpful is getting to a mindset of gratitude where I can constantly thank God for, like, it's like when something good happens, it's like my mind just goes, oh yeah, God, thank you.
And my question would be, that's the ideal, but is that a sin if you do that? If you don't do that?
I honestly can't say. I really don't know. And I think that's such
My
a like,
perspective,
yeah.
my perspective, Poya, and tell me what you think about this, but my perspective is it's not a sin, but but things can turn into idols, right?
That's
So
right.
so
That's right.
so so
Yeah,
so
I
so
think
so
that's where
so,
I
so
lean.
for example, right, me and you, many times, let's just say we take any topic, like we look at personal development, and I've had this, right? Me and you have talked about this, and you've actually pulled me up on this, where very recently, if I be honest, and I'm going to share this publicly, it's like I've come from the I'm a Christian, born in a Christian family, but very, very into personal development. And I enjoy personal development. And I think God's given me that. Like, God's given me that path of personal development and using that to serve Him. However, there was times where I was over relying on it and not relying on God. And you pulled me up on that. And you were like, Kevin, I think it's actually starting to become a bit of an idol to you. And then I was like,
Mm.
oh, okay, you're actually right. And then, we prayed about it, we worked it out, and then I started to kind of bringing things around where it's like personal development, but it is for God, it's to serve God, right? So I think it's important to know that you can enjoy what you enjoy if you're not even in the moment, you're not thinking about God. But eventually, over time, things can turn into idols, and I think that is where the boundary is.
Oh man, that's it. That's it. That's it. And I think the way you mitigate that is just by building that like mindset of constant gratitude of like when something like really awesome happens, when I enjoy something, just thank God for it. Hey, I'm
Yeah,
watching Spider-Man No Way Home on release day in the cinema, and Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield show up and it's sick. Thank you, God. I'm hanging out with
yeah,
one of my best friends doing a podcast. Thank you, God. It's that
yeah.
constant mindset of like just like when something awesome happens, you thank God. Thank
Yeah,
God for it.
good. And I think like, I think that's a great framework, because when I went to Philippines and I did a missions trip in Philippines with my church, right?
Mm.
Um, and we saw some crazy things happen, like people be healed of walking, people who couldn't walk all their life, all of a sudden get up and walk when we prayed for them, or people who couldn't see were able to see, or people who were demonically possessed, just crazy things, right? And when we talked to the people that we were doing the mission trips with, every single thing. Like if we were to thank them for something, they'll be like, oh, only by God's grace, only by God's grace. It actually started getting annoying at a particular point. I was just like,
I know what you mean.
right? See, here's the thing, right?
Compliment, man.
Just take a compliment, right? It started getting annoying, but then I thought to myself, but we don't do that enough, right? So what I kind of came to, and especially after talking about this now, is that if we don't do that, then it's easy for us to get taken away into eventually turning something into idol and not really thanking God for it. So I think even if it's annoying, I don't think if you don't do that, it's a sin. I think it's a great way to ensure that we are posturing every single thing that we're doing in our life towards Him.
100%. And you know what? This is the other thing that we got to mention with the Holy Spirit, bro. If you're a Christian, you got the Holy Spirit, you got God's Spirit living in you, and He helps you. And all you do is pray and ask for help. And that's the other thing. It's not all on your own strength. It's actually God's strength as well.
Yep.
And I think that's like
absolutely.
the one like advantage we have as Christians is like we actually got the Spirit of God living in us.
Yeah.
Which is pretty groovy. So I think that's the other thing. It's like don't beat yourself up because it's like, you know, like you can't do it on your own. Ask God and be patient with God. Know God, like maybe it takes a while for you to get there.
Absolutely.
Maybe it takes a while for you to like be more consistent in your why, to be having a more consistent posture of gratitude towards God. And I think that's kind of the thing as well. That's another big thing distinction is we have the Holy Spirit. And I think for a lot of people who aren't Christian, it's their own strength. I mean, they're like, you know, they could do their whole thing with the universe, whatever, they're manifesting, but it's their own strength. It's all on their own strength. They don't have the creator of existence on their side. They don't have God who separated I don't know, was it the Red Sea or Dead Sea for Moses? I keep getting confused, but you know what I mean.
Red Sea, yep.
Red Sea, there you go.
Yeah.
It's the same God who raised Lazarus and Jesus from the dead. The same God who brought down a city, the walls of a city with trumpets, Jericho. Like, that's the guy who we can directly access and say, hey, can you help me out? Help me be more consistent in my way. Help me be more grateful to you. We can do that. And I think that's something some Christians, maybe even a lot of Christians, don't really appreciate enough. I don't appreciate enough. I remember the times where we're in prayer and I'm like, can this guy just like hurry up? Can he like just get on with it? Like, hurry up, bruv. But like, no, we got to talk to the creator of the universe. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. No, I totally get it, man. Totally get it. Poya, I think, I think what we'll do is we went a long time on this topic, so we'll probably just close it here and we'll unpack the next topic in our next session. But for you who's listening, thank you for listening. There is so much more gold to come. But peace out. See you later. Bye.
Peace out.